everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me anywhere you get social media, ad hoc blogger, including here on YouTube, where we are very close to 18,000 subscribers and would love to get there by draft night. If you can help us out with a quick like, click subscribe, would really appreciate it. And we're going to have some fun tonight. I'm looking forward to this. We've been focusing so much on the Seahawks that it's time to spend a little time talking about other teams. We are going to focus on the first 17 picks of this draft to get a feel for the teams picking ahead of Seattle, who they might need, who they might choose, and who that will mean will be left for Seattle. So we'll be doing that with our pals, Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. How are you doing this fine Wednesday evening, Jeff?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. The draft is next week, so this is my favorite time of year.
Well, it's funny. Like, I was wanting to ask you and Nathan this in particular. We're waiting on Nathan Ernst. He's supposed to be here. He's incommunicado, so hopefully everything's okay. But we'll I'm sure we'll hear from him in a little bit. But I was wondering if you're feeling any draft fatigue. Like, we're here a week out. Are you at all less enthusiastic? Are you finding yourself listening to less content, anything like that, as we head into the final week before the draft?
I've kind of got mock draft fatigue, and Dane Brugler put out a 7-round mock draft today, and I'm usually like, oh my god! And I saw it, I'm like, I can't even look at this, and I still have not opened it, which is so unlike me. So that's just I feel like every mock draft looks exactly the same right now. From 1 to 8, and I'm just at this point, what am I really getting out of this? I've seen so many of these, and so I'm kind of there. This last 4 weeks have been really quiet, and it's just been moving really slow. So a little bit, I'm just ready for this thing to happen at this point, and I'm staring at FanDuel and DraftKings and trying to come up with new angles, and so this kind of exercise helps because I have spent a lot of time thinking about other teams, but I get bad thoughts in my head. I start going on the betting apps. I'm like, I need to stop. So I'm pretty much cut myself off at this point. And so, yeah, I'm definitely in that boat.
Well, I'll admit I've gotten, a little bit of fatigue in a way that I haven't had for a draft in at least a few years. And I don't know if it's because of the players in the draft or, there's something about it feels very recycled this year. A lot of the same topics, a lot of the same conversations. There's not as much intrigue. There's not as much who's going to move up and down trade wise. I don't get, although the Giants today there's some hint that they might be looking to move out of the third pick. And last year, there was a decent amount of movement, even ahead of the draft. And then there was, so many quarterbacks, right? And you just didn't know how those were going to fall. And I don't know, something about it felt more gripping. This feels like very few game-changing players that I'm just I cannot wait to see this guy in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then as much as I love offensive linemen, and that's our focus, there is a limit to how excited somebody can get about offensive linemen. So, it's it feels like a full draft. It feels like 2 or 3 rounds of day 2 picks. Is what it feels like, and maybe 2 or 3 or 4. Honestly, I'm not sure there's more than 2 truly, maybe 2 or 3 truly elite prospects. I know people say 5 or 7. I think it's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Jeanty to me are the 3 legitimate, any draft would be blue chip players. I don't know if anyone else qualifies.
I'm with you on that. I don't think there's a 4th guy, and I think people are trying to convince themselves into some guys. And the problem I'm finding, and it's kind of alludes to what you're talking about, is just right now every mock and every content, 1 through 6 is basically the same in every single mock draft. And it's that's supposed to be the intriguing part of the draft, and it's chalk, chalk, chalk. I don't know if it's going to happen. And the Raiders take Ashton Jeanty every time. The Jaguars take Mason Graham. And then by pick 7, which has always been my problem with this draft. It's always like, really, that's who you're taking there? And it's like the worst spot to be in this draft is like 7 to 12, because those are spots where you're usually getting like home runs. And I said on Saturday, I don't even like Mason Graham as much as consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think of like Malik Neighbors went 5th last year, and Joe Alt, like those guys are the kind of guys usually get in that spot. This year you're looking at like, once you get to pick 7, it's not a lot of buzz. So I think the fun part for me is like by pick 7 on, every pick is kind of going to be a mystery at that point. But
well, that's a good segue, Jeff, because we are going to do the HB mock draft prediction, or not mock draft, 2025 draft prediction game again this year. And you and Derek tied for the win last year with, I should bring it up. I should have the name just ready for me. Prediction game. Sorry, 1 second. I want to get the name right. And I just heard Nathan join, so we'll get him in here in a second. He is, taking his sweet time, doing what he likes to do. So the winner last year, Caleb Epp, if Caleb's listening, is the draft guru. He's earned that name for the full year. He tied with you and Derek for the most points in the prediction show last year. Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11. Nathan Ernst, he didn't do so hot last year. Out of the 38 people that played, Nathan finished 34th. So wasn't a great showing for Nathan Ernst. I just wanted to make sure that we got that information out there as he joins. Nathan, how are you doing tonight?
I was doing better like 30 seconds ago, I guess. I don't know. I'm doing good. My bad. I was baking. I was making some baked oats, and all of a sudden I checked my phone and had a bunch of angry texts from you, and so I scrambled over here and
angry. I have to dispute that. The exact text was, "Are you coming?" ?
Just furious.
Sounds fiery, man.
My goodness, you're in for it if you think that's angry. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do the prediction thing again. Thanks to Derek Gebby, who's been helping me on making it a little bit more automated this year. I will be sending out that link to everybody who is a club level and higher YouTube member, and everybody who's on Patreon. So lots of people can play this year, and we're going to give away a Real Hawk Talk sweatshirt to the winner this year. So a little bit more than we did last year. I feel a little bit more able to accommodate a real prize. But Caleb Epp still gets to be draft guru through the rest of this draft. So
can I interrupt with?
Yeah, of course you can. Always, please.
All right, cool. So I've been reading some of the comments on the YouTubes, and people are not always loving the audio. And so I've got like a new mic. I've got this up now. I'm going to try to eat the mic a little bit. I don't know if this is making any kind of an improvement or not. I'll go back and listen later. But I guess in the chat, let me know, because this is kind of driving me insane being right here. And if
we've heard feedback on Jeff's mic as well, and Jeff and I really worked on trying to reduce the breathing sound that keeps coming through it. We'll see if that did better. We may invest in a different mic set for everybody if we need to, but we'll see. We'll see. I definitely understand, because if you're listening, if the audio is off, it's just really, it's like the most important part of any show, is honestly the audio. So certainly not the visual. So other than Jeff and Nathan make up for me, but guys, before we get into picking 17 picks, which is going to take a little while, and we're also going to get some Patreon questions. Got some really good Patreon questions we'll get to. And don't worry, Nathan, I grabbed those, so you don't have to worry about that. I was just talking to Jeff, Nathan, about like draft fatigue, and I was curious if you're having that at all, and if not, why not? Like, what are you excited about for this draft?
I mean, I go in spurts with it. I'll go a week or more and not look at a single draft thing or watch a single, cut up or anything like that. And then I'll see something on Twitter about some play. Like right now Nate Tice is tweeting a bunch of Ted McMillan stuff, and I'm talking to myself like,
No, Ethan, no.
Maybe
No.
makes sense. I mean, we can talk about. He's interesting to me. So maybe we'll talk about him later. But so then I'll binge, and so I've got that kind of pattern to it. So I don't think I've burnt out. I've just kind of naturally ebb and flow, I guess.
Yeah, I do think that Ted McMillan will be an interesting pivot point for the team. The other thing that I just wonder with you guys, like for me, generally what gets me most excited about the draft is, okay, do the Seahawks have a chance to get a lot better? Like, are they are there some guys that I just think are, if, for example, I thought there was some chance that Armand Membu would fall to them, I would feel very differently than I do about like the situation that they're in, even with 5 picks in the top 92 and a lot of guys that I really like. I'm not sure this draft is set up to really massively change the fortunes of the team, like massively change the ceiling. I might be wrong, but like going into it, I just feel a little bit less convinced that the team can really raise its ceiling with this draft, as opposed to just reinforce the core, find some guys that can start for you and be good players, but not necessarily like roster changing. Like when the Lions pick Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch, in one class. I don't know if there's that even like potential in this class. Do you guys, Jeff? I see the little mischievous look on your face. Do you feel differently?
I just think that's one of those things you can't really predict.
You can't.
Like, no one would have said the Rams 2 years ago without a first round pick would have had, and even like some of the best Seahawks drafts, 2012, 2011, no one would have said like they changed their fortunes based on a second and a third. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but yeah, like usually at the top of the draft, why we were also excited a couple of years ago when it was Jalen Carter and Will Anderson, and like that felt like it. So the hard thing is you can't really predict it when it happens. A lot of the times it comes out of nowhere. And Brian, you talk about this a lot. Like a lot of times it's day 3 picks that would come out of nowhere. So I get it. Like the names we're looking at 18 are not the team players that typically are going to be franchise altering players. And if we're being honest about this draft, this is more of a floor raising draft than a ceiling raising draft, probably. Mm-hmm. And so I get where you're coming from, but I'll always be hooked by just the mystery of not knowing and finally seeing what they're going to. I like the suspense angle of the draft more so than like the ceiling raising potential.
Yeah, I did a show on the 2023 draft this morning, and it was good kind of looking back and seeing the Seahawks had the second most draft capital going into that draft, right? This one they had 5 and 20, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and they did pretty well, right? Like they ended up with Witherspoon and JSN, who their 3 combined Pro Bowl seasons is second only to the Lions, who have 4 combined Pro Bowl seasons out of that draft class. But if you remember, like a few days after that, I was like, I think it was a good draft. I'm just not sure it was good enough. And that's like, and we also talked about the Cardinals. They had a ton of draft capital. I'm like, I think they blew it. And so far, I feel like those 2 things are true. So the Seahawks have roughly the 6th or 7th most draft capital heading in. So again, they've got the ammunition. They got to hit a few, and they got to hit some guys that are like we've talked about before, like the day 3 guys, the Puka Nakuas, the Reek Woolens, the Cam Chancellors. Like you got to have one of those day 3 guys for sure to really have a great draft. So that'll be an interesting one. Maybe we'll talk about that more next week. Nathan, I think I cut you off. You're about to say something.
No, I was just going to kind of echo what Jeff was saying. Like, you named that Lions draft. I don't think people walked away from that Lions draft being like, oh,
they were so critical.
No, they got killed. They got
killed taking running back at 12.
Yeah. And like Laporta was not a super popular guy. I mean, I think everyone kind of liked the Branch pick, and that turned out he was a little bit of a draft darling. But yeah, so and I think the other thing is, I don't know that this team I think this team needs a floor raising. I think that's been the problem, is that the floor falls out of this team, right? Like there is talent. There are guys that you can look at. You do have Jason, you do have Spoon, you do have Ernest Jones. You do have, Mafe and some of these guys. And like kind of what they now need to do is come in and like build a floor on the offensive line.
Yes.
And
so
and
true.
so, are they going to get blue chippers and, are they going to recreate the 2012 draft? Like probably not, but like, can they come in and address all of their biggest needs? Yeah, I think that's right there for them.
Well, one of the things I'll just offer before we get into our main event of the night is we will be talking to John Schneider and Mike McDonald Monday. So there will be an opportunity to ask them some questions. I'm sure they're going to tell us everything in that press conference, but we'll have at least some new info from them. And
I
wish it was all of us. No, it's gonna be at the VMAC, and so we'll have a press. We'll be able to ask some questions, and then tomorrow I'm talking to Matt Harmon from Reception Perception. I haven't had a chance to talk to Matt live. He does a great job on just breaking down receivers. So Nathan, I feel like you and Derek should be on the show with me because you guys will have so many receiver questions, but it could be fun to talk to him about the receivers in this class, as well as the receivers on the Seahawks and how they blend together. And then Jeff, you and I will be on Saturday, and then we're having Rob Staten and Griff Sturgeon for the draft roundtable on Sunday. So we got a lot of good stuff coming. So a lot of good stuff to get to. With that, you guys ready to start making picks for other teams, talking about other teams' problems? It's kind of refreshing in a way. The way I think we'll do this is I'll share my screen and we'll use my version of this. Well, actually, sure. We'll use, this will do. I will share this. And so we'll look at this together and fill it out together. These are the teams that have picks ahead of the Seahawks. And we'll go through 1 through 17. And we can talk about if we want like trades. I would rather not get too complicated. If we feel pretty strongly there might be a trade, great. But otherwise, we're going to try to talk about these teams and their needs and what's likely to happen. And go ahead.
So is this what we think they will do or what we think they should do?
What do you guys think we should do?
Will do.
I think will do would probably be more useful.
Okay. Even better.
And if you think that there's something you're like, they're going to do this, but it's stupid, and I think they should do this, I think that's fine to add. But let's try to aim for what they will do. So we end up with a decent feel for what we think the Seahawks will have waiting for them at 18.
Perfect.
Like, I assume we all think Cam Ward is the number one pick. I don't think we need to spend like hours on each of these. Oh, wait, Nathan, tell me what? What are you thinking here?
Well, as I have in my prediction, I think there is a sleeper pick here. Are we sure Gunnar Helm's off the board at number 1?
You know how much money you could make if you picked Gunnar Helm in a bet and they actually
like, would Vegas even take it?
I don't even think it would be listed as an option.
I
think they would deny that bet.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Cam Ward currently, at least on FanDuel, is negative 20,000. I have a general rule that if you're negative 20,000, we don't need to discuss in detail who's going to go number 1.
Sure.
Did you see he was doing a stream today, and they asked him who the best receiver in the league is, and he said Calvin Ridley. So I think that gave away. What's happening. I think he's like Calvin
Ridley. Smart kid.
Yeah. So I think he called Brian Callahan the best coach in the league too. So I think he knows what's happening.
Oh, good for him. What I will say, like, let's take one beat on this. Do you think this is what Tennessee should be doing?
I do. I think he's talented enough at a super important position. I mean, passing on, for me personally, like, I really love Abdul Carter. And so there definitely is an opportunity cost here, but I think you got to figure this pick out. And I think he's an interesting roll of the dice for sure. A worthwhile gamble.
Jeff, I get queasy. If I was a Titans fan, I would be queasy because I think absolutely clearly you are not taking the best player in this draft.
Yeah.
I don't even think you're taking the second best player in this draft. You may not be taking like the 8th best player. Like it's possible like you're taking a 20th. Like I think Cam Ward's a good player, a decent prospect. I don't think he's anywhere close to a number 1 overall pick kind of quarterback. So
He might have gone. He might have been the 7th quarterback in last year.
Easily, I think. So, I mean, for me, if I'm a Titans fan, I would have wanted them to trade this pick. That's what I would have wanted them to do. Find a taker, trade the pick, get more capital, and ideally have one of those picks be a 2026 first round pick and go get my quarterback next year and then take a gamble on one of these, other quarterbacks later in this draft. That's what I would want them to do, but that's not what they're going to do.
No, they've painted themselves in a corner. Like they literally didn't bring in any quarterback other than like some dude who's like coached with Brent, their coach before. Like, clearly they think very little of Will Levis. The guy who drafted him literally got fired after a year. So I think we all got that one right, and they've kind of backed themselves in where they don't really have a choice at this point.
Yeah. The Will Levis one is just so fascinating, given that like so many mocks had him top 10, top 6, and he goes in the second round. And I just, as we continue to talk, I do wonder if Shedeur Sanders is going to be in a similar kind of situation. So I think the number 1 pick is pretty clear. Number 2, this could go a few ways. Jeff, where do you think? What's your money on for this second pick for the Browns?
So I was of the opinion that they were going to take Abdul Carter. I think they should take him. But based on all the information that's come out and based on where the betting lines have moved, it seems like everything is pointing towards Travis Hunter. And it's not what I would do personally, but they kind of just don't have that flashy star on offense. I think they're going to play him a wide receiver. It's become a pretty significant favor. I don't know if you have the odds in front of you, but
yep, I do. It is Travis Hunter is the favorite for this pick, negative 380, which is not huge, but it is the only negative odd here. Abdul Carter is next, most likely. The Browns are an interesting team. I mean, they're 1 year removed from being a playoff team.
Yeah.
They definitely need a quarterback. It doesn't feel like a rookie is necessarily the best way to go there. There was some conversation at some point of, them making a big move for Dak Prescott, which makes no sense. But like the Browns certainly like they need more help on offense than they do on defense. Travis Hunter can potentially help them on both sides. Nathan, if you're the Cleveland Browns and you're a Browns fan, what are you hoping that they do?
Abdul Carter, I think.
Yeah.
A wide receiver, maybe cornerback, just feels like such a luxury for this team. Like to me, he's not a clear-cut better player than Abdul Carter. And so I would really have a hard time if I was a Browns fan and you're looking at Hunter over him.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have Myles Garrett, which is the strength of their team. Like, why not just create like a super strength?
Yeah,
kind of lean into that. Like Carter and Garrett off the edge would be pretty nuts.
Well, that's what they had a couple years ago. Their defense was like number 1 in the NFL, and that's what led them to. I mean, they were winning games with who was the quarterback that was playing for them?
Joe Flacco, who they re-signed.
No, even before that. I mean, it was. Who's the guy that played in Seattle against us? I mean, it was like
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker.
Yeah.
PJ Walker beat the 49ers.
Yeah.
So
they were that good on defense.
They were really good. So the odds are Travis Hunter. I'm with Nathan. I would have expected them to pick Abdul Carter. I think he's the more certain bet. I think we should probably go with the odds here. Does that feel if we're unless we feel a strong case differently?
Oh, I think whoever we take at 2, the other guy's going to go at 3. So
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay,
So,
we'll see. We know how much you love the other option there.
well, I mean, this is where it gets interesting. The Giants are the team that are most commonly linked to Shedeur Sanders of the kind of the top 5 teams, right? Do you think that the Giants, I mean, they're having a private workout. There's some speculation Mara's getting involved and like you're going to take a quarterback. There's also new speculation they might trade out of the pick. What do you guys think is going to happen at 3? You look at the Giants team, you look at that situation. They don't have Drew Lock anymore. They clearly need a quarterback.
This does feel like a spot where a trade is likely. Like you were saying, hey, if I'm Tennessee, I want to trade down and I want to load up for next year. But like, who cares to get to the number 1 pick this year, right? Maybe somebody really wants to go all the way up and get Abdul Carter there, and I don't know, right? It's spendy. 3 now, it starts to feel a little bit more realistic that somebody would want to jump up there and grab him. I don't know who that is, though. The Niners?
I mean, for me, it just makes sense. The Giants were 28th in the NFL in defensive DVOA. They were 28th in the NFL in offensive DVOA. But they have something going on defense. I mean, Dexter Lawrence was hurt last year. He'll be back and is a defensive player of the year level player. And then you've got Brian Burns and you've got Kayvon Thibodeau as 2 additional good edge rushers. Like, they've got something decent going on defense when Lawrence is there. Where does Abdul Carter fit? Does Abdul Carter is just the 3rd? I mean, obviously, you're always happy to have an Abdul Carter no matter what. But that's my question here is he taking snaps from Thibodeau? Is he taking snaps from Burns? How does that work?
Unless they're in some like NASCAR package on 3rd down, like you can't have 3 of them on the field at the same time. It's almost like to put that many resources into one position. It's pretty wild because Thibodeau was 6th or 5th overall.
Yeah,
they paid a pretty steep price to get Burns in a trade last year. I think it was 2 seconds or a first and a second, and then you're talking 3rd pick, and this is where they're kind of in an awkward spot where they would probably be the team who would love to take Travis Hunter. And Nathan's right. This is a very logical trade back spot. Maybe Carolina, who has like no face of the franchise on defense. Maybe New England could jump up a spot.
Well, I'm going to throw something out here. And before I do, I've got to check the trade value charts. Okay.
How much it costs to get up from 11?
Yes.
Nathan said it. They have the most capital. It's gross, but it could happen.
The Panthers?
Yes. So
Brian Burns capital too? I mean, I think they do make sense too.
Well, they should have had 2 seconds, but they traded 1 away.
So the 3rd pick, according to the Rich Hill trade chart, is worth 2,200 points. The San Francisco 49ers have the 11th pick, which is worth 1,250. So they're about 1,000 short. Their 2nd round pick is worth 470. Their 3rd round pick, they have 2 3rd round picks. Their 2 3rd round picks are worth 315. That's still not enough.
I bet this comes at a discount though.
It might.
But can they afford to drop that low?
To get
like
drops on
the Giants drop 8 spots to pick up I think you'd almost have to give them a next year first.
I bet they can do this for like a 1st, a 2nd, and a next year 3rd or something. I bet they can get this dirt cheap because the Giants can still trade down and get Shedeur at 11. Like, there's only one threat really here. I guess the Saints are the only team. Maybe the Jets, but they seem pretty in on Fields. Yeah. And like, where is Shedeur really valued? Like, I bet there's a discount on this pick.
I don't know that there could be that steep of a discount on the 3rd overall pick, especially with a blue chip player like Abdul Carter sitting there.
Here's some of the recent examples. I don't feel like we've seen anyone jump that far into the top 5, right?
Well, we saw Houston.
Houston was 12-3 on draft day.
That the Will Anderson trade?
That was the Will Anderson. That was pretty steep. Like the Niners traded 11 or 12 to 3 when they did Lance, but that was like a month before the draft and a quarterback draft.
So the Cardinals moved up from 12 to 3, and they got the 33rd as well as a 2024 following year first and third round pick. So that's what I think the 49ers would have to give up their next year's first. I really do. And I don't think that's crazy if the 49ers still feel like they're in their window and they've got some diminishing guys. Abdul Carter across from Nick Bosa fits exactly what the 49ers spend their draft capital on. They always go defensive line, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, like on and on and on. They go defensive line in their high first round picks. I don't think it's out of the question.
I guess the one issue then is like, do they value Carter enough over Starks, Green, Stewart, some of those, or not Starks, sorry, Michael Williams, to value that. But let's lock it in. Let's do it. Let's say that, like, whatever the actual compensation ends up being, let's say this goes to
we're gonna go a little wild here. Are we gonna do this?
Let's do it.
I said the mocks were getting boring, so there we go.
We're gonna say trade here, and we're gonna say that 49ers give up. Let's just say it a 2026 first plus their 2025 second, and obviously and plus 11.
Just change or yeah.
So this becomes the 49ers. This becomes the New York Giants. I don't think this is crazy. And the 49ers pick Abdul Carter. That makes so much more sense to me than the Giants taking Abdul Carter.
I'd be so sad if that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, we probably spent too much time on the third pick already, but the 49ers, I still think that their fortunes rise and fall with Trent Williams. And if they go defensive end with their first pick, or defense in general with their first pick, they're a Trent Williams injury away from being irrelevant. Like, they might be a playoff team, but they certainly will not be a contending team without Trent Williams.
But who at 11 solves that for them?
I mean, Kelvin Banks, I think, could be there. I think there's a potential that Will Campbell's another guy that they could trade up for. Like, maybe 3 is too high, but I think they could go up for Membu or Campbell if they really like those guys. But that's why, like, Carter definitely helps their defense, no question. I'm just not sure that that's a game changer for them in the like, let's win a ring right now kind of situation.
Yeah, I was doing a little research for the show and kind of the other things, and there's a lot of chatter about them and Nathan's buddy Kelvin Banks, and so that would solve a lot of, like, they can play him a left guard now, they can kick him out to left tackle once Trent retires. There's a lot of picks, so if there's a domino, this could help Seattle in that kind of market. So maybe that works out in a way.
Yeah, as much as I love Banks, but I love him as a guard. Membu's awesome. I do kind of like him more as a guard. Will Campbell, yeah, maybe. But, like, are those guys really like, oh yeah, we've solved the Trent Williams problem?
No, you don't solve a Trent Williams problem anywhere. You don't solve a Walter Jones problem. Like,
yeah.
But if they go from Trent Williams to a replacement level player versus Trent Williams versus a plus starter, that's a pretty big difference.
Sure.
But, like, I haven't honestly, I had not thought about this before we got on. I've been thinking the 49ers are going to, I think that it is realistic the 49ers are going to try to trade up. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to do that. I don't think to 3 is probably the most likely, but I think this makes a lot of sense. From both sides. So next, let's talk about the Patriots. If this happens, things are going to go wild. So Nathan, what do you think happens here? The Patriots, this is a team that, 30th on offense, 30th on defense. DVOA wise, this is a team with a young quarterback, needs offensive line. Where do you think they go?
I mean, Will Campbell is the chalk pick, I believe. Mason Graham, I think, though, is a serious contender here. I don't know what else really, like, who else is really a serious contender here. Anything beyond those two kind of feels like a drop down.
Yeah, if Shedeur Sanders somehow goes top 3, then a Travis Hunter makes a ton of sense, or an Abdul Carter or something like that. But otherwise,
does Mike Vrabel reach back to his Titans day and try to find himself the next Derrick Henry?
That's an interesting thought.
But I doubt it, right? Like that's
I think it's an interesting thought. I don't think so.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, to me, I think maybe it's more Mason Graham than Will Campbell, but I don't have a strong opinion on it.
Jeff, where do you lean?
I think they're definitely going to take a left tackle in this scenario.
Yeah.
If you look at like what they've done and what they tried to sign a bunch of left tackles in free agency, it didn't work. Like they really wanted Ronnie Stanley, who got signed the day before like the market started. They had like 120 million cap room, and their left tackle looks like the Seahawks left guard spot right now. It's close to a disaster. And there are people, so Nathan's not off board. There are people who cover the team who think they should take Genty. They just think his impact in this draft class versus, and like, again, you look at other drafts, when you have the number 4 pick, it's usually hitting you right in the face. Like Harrison last year, Neighbors, and the year before, there were some sweet options. Like this year, you're really not getting the value you get at this spot. So they're almost forced to reach here. If I'm just trying to figure out Vrabel, I just always tie Will Campbell. I wonder about Membu after the combine, but I don't know if he's a left tackle specifically. I think he's a more exciting prospect, but I think him being more of a right tackle or a left guard makes me think that they're going to end up with Will Campbell.
I've listened to enough Patriots content over the last year. Like the offensive line, you think we talk about the offensive line? They are so down in the depths about their offensive line. I mean, Vidarian Lowe is their starting left tackle, and
who?
Yeah, exactly.
I told you it's bad.
It's really bad. So I think this is pretty locked as a left tackle. It's also Will Campbell is the betting odds, so I think we'll go that way. I think that's a really interesting point you brought up about Genty, but I think they'll have to go positional value here. So if we get to the Jags at 5, Jags are another team that feel like a little bit, everyone's got them taking Mason Graham. Are you guys as sure about that?
No.
Go on. And Jeff, I know you got you're not a huge fan of Mason Graham, but like, you look at this team, I mean, their defensive tackles are really bad. I mean, they're starting like Mason Smith and Devon Hamilton. They do have Eric Armstead. But they're talking about people are saying they want to trade Trayvon Walker. They don't have, like, their other edge is Josh Hines Allen. Josh Allen's a good edge rusher. What's your thought here? I mean, if not Mason Graham, where would they go?
I wonder about Membu and I wonder about Genty. I just look at the Jaguars. They're kind of like a team without like an identity. Everyone makes the Graham comparison because like the Rams guys are taking over the team. The Rams had Aaron Donald, Kobe Turner. Last year they drafted Braden Fisk, and everyone's like, okay, they love defensive tackles. I don't know if that was like a team building strategy or just kind of worked out for them. And so everyone's like, okay, Mason Graham, but I don't know if that's for sure. I think it might be just a media idea. And so I do wonder about Genty, and I remember Liam Cohen at the owners meeting you were at saying like, wow, we really have a lot of work to do to get our offensive line where it was in Tampa last year.
Yes.
And so I remember that stuck in the back of my head. I'm like, well, they can just put Membu at right tackle. That will help Trevor Lawrence. That will help Brian Thomas. So he's the one I wonder about more so than Genty, most likely.
I'm looking at them now. I mean, they were 17th in offensive DVOA. They were 31st in defensive. So their defense is definitely bad. There's no question about that. I don't know that they're a Mason Graham away from really making a dent on defense, but their starting left tackle, at least as it stands right now, is Walker Little. I'm not convinced that's the guy that, like, you just hired a offensive head coach who, to your point, Jeff, talked about offensive line and how lucky they were in Tampa, how he took it for granted how good their offensive line was. I'm not even sure that I could make the case that Mason Graham is a better player than Armand Membu or a better prospect.
Armand Membu didn't even play left tackle in college.
He did not.
You might have to play him at right.
So I don't know who the right tackle is. I don't know if that's someone you flip over to.
Anton Harrison.
Yeah, so I don't know.
If I look, go ahead.
I would say these offense, like, this is kind of goes back to the Niners thing with me. Like, I think this is an awesome draft if you need a guard, and I think this is a pretty terrible draft if you need a left tackle.
Yeah.
Or at least in the first round. Like, I like Josh Simmons. Like, if you're really like you want to go solve your left tackle problem, I would probably try to find a way to get up in the end of the first round or early second round and see if you can get Connerly. But also, like, Josh Simmons is the one that actually makes the most sense to me here. I don't know about moving Membu over to the left side. I don't know.
Yeah, Walker Little wasn't terrible last year. They weren't terrible in general in pass pro. They did lose Brandon Scherf at guard. You guys make the call. I will tell you. I would not underestimate the potential of an offensive lineman being the pick here, depending on how things fall. But obviously, anything they do on defense would make sense as well. I think the Mason Graham thing, that could be any defender, any defensive player that you like as well. I don't think it's necessarily set to be Mason Graham either.
I was gonna say, like, the guy that I keep thinking that I compare Shamar Stewart to is Trayvon Walker. And now maybe they want to get rid of Trayvon Walker, so maybe that's not the way that they would go here. But if you're looking for like a blue chip, or you want to take a swing at least, like, he to me makes sense here. I'm not the biggest Tyler Warren fan in the world.
That's why I was wondering. Like, are we sure they're not a Colston Loveland or a Tyler Warren team?
Like, at 5, oof, but does it make sense? Is there again that like blue chip potential? I think so. So to me, those things are more interesting, but like, I think the safe thing is just probably just Armand Membu, right? Or I mean, I don't know. I don't know their offensive line situation well enough, but
I think the safe pick is Mason Graham, but
sure.
I kind of like the Membu idea.
I'll let you guys make the call. You guys Rochambeau for it.
I don't. For some reason, Mason Graham here just doesn't make. I just don't. It just doesn't seem right, and I don't have any reason to say that other than it just feels like, well, he's the best player, so, and the Jags suck, so just put the best player available on the Jags.
Exactly.
No, that's not bad logic, but I don't know if that's what they'll do.
Jeff, you make the call.
I'm gonna go Membu. I'm kind of the one I was kind of skeptical about Mason Graham the other day.
All right. We're 43 minutes in. We're 5 picks in. So we'll have to pick up the pace a little bit.
It's like the actual draft.
I mean, honestly, I've been really enjoying this conversation because it's helping me think through these scenarios, but it's good hanging with you guys. So the Raiders, I just said that, and this is honestly, of all the picks, the one I wanted to talk about the most. Pete Carroll. Everybody's assuming he's going to take a running back first. Everyone's assuming it's Ashton Genty. I don't think that's
why it's Travion Henderson.
Like, he's taken a running back with Rashad Penny in the first, but he's also taken, like, you look at the history, they traded a 4th round for Marshawn. They drafted Chris Carson in the 7th. Like, they haven't always been a first round on a running back kind of team. If Membu wasn't the pick before, I was going to argue Membu would very, very realistically be the pick here. And nobody has them going offensive line. Their right tackle situations isn't great. Colton Miller's a fine left tackle. They could also go corner, Jeff, but like Will Johnson or something like that. But Pete's generally taking corners late.
their corner room is really bad. It's bleak. And they just cut one of their best corners, I think, because of behavioral issues. So
Yep.
I think everyone's jumping to conclusions with the Genty thing. Like, I get it. Like, Pete Carroll's a meme for running backs. They took 2 second-round running backs in a draft that doesn't have a lot of great players. He's one of the few great players, but like, their team isn't very good. Like, have you looked at something like, I think Ted McMillan could be an option here. Like, Brendan Carroll, who's Pete's son, was his OC in Arizona, his best year in college. And Nathan just hit. Like, are they going to take Genty? Like, they could get one of the Ohio State running backs who Chip Kelly just coached in the second round. Like, it doesn't. And again, and it's the GM. We don't know anything about this GM. This is his first pick ever as a GM. So
he comes from Tampa, right?
He comes from Tampa. So they've been one of the better drafting teams, but I don't know if that anything.
But they don't. But he's like the new age. He like positional value is going to come into play for him. Like, I think it's going to be hard to make a case to the GM, who, by the way, has, I think, final word on personnel choices. Unlike Pete's experience in Seattle, I don't know that that you're going to have the GM, his first pick, 6th overall, be a running back.
I'm with you. Like, every mock draft, every podcast is like, all right, Genty Raiders. I'm like, we all know Pete better than anyone, and I don't agree think that. And so I think for the guy to make his first ever pick, and like you said, he's a younger GM with Tom Brady there, who's pretty influential. I think he's pretty into like numbers and analytics, and I don't think it's going to be Genty. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a media creation.
Name 2 wide receivers on the Raiders.
Jacoby Myers.
Yep, that's one.
And somebody else.
They still, everyone's like, they're going to sign Tyler Lockett. He's still out there. So,
do you want to know their receiver room right now? It's Alex Bachman.
Is that a real guy?
That is apparently a real guy.
I think it's a character in Silicon Valley. Have you seen that show?
Yeah,
he does actually look like a character from Silicon Valley.
I think Alec Bachman is a character in that show.
Jeff Foreman, Shedrick Jackson, Ramel Keaton, Tyreek McAllister, Kyle Phillips, who looks also like a character from Silicon Valley, Trey Tucker, and Christian Wilkerson.
Well, so let's play this out for a second.
Yeah.
What do we know that Pete's taken in when they've had top half of the first round picks in Seattle, which they often did not during his tenure? What did they do? They took Russell Okung. They took Earl Thomas. Mm-hmm. Those were his first 2 picks. Then they took who was
Bruce Irvin?
Bruce Irvin was 2011. They traded back, but he was still early-ish. Then they took, much later, Charles Cross at 9, Devin Witherspoon at 5. He compared him to Troy Polamalu. I don't think he's going to see Will Johnson and think this is the next great corner. So I'm not convinced he's going to go corner. I'll throw a name out there, guys. What if they draft Shedeur Sanders? They just signed Geno Smith. A lot of people, a lot of coaches will not want the Shedeur Sanders show. If there's a coach out there that would be fine with it, it's Pete Carroll. And there's no pressure to play him for at least 2 years.
I don't know that Pete is okay with Shedeur Sanders. Pete is okay with you being your own person, but you have to buy in, right? Like, the Hushmanzada thing still happened.
It did, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that was before Pete, though.
No, that was Pete cut it pretty quick. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's definitely no, but I don't know that Pete is going to necessarily be okay with Shedeur Sanders if Shedeur Sanders is like, nah, you guys buy into me. And I don't know if that's a fair depiction of Shedeur Sanders necessarily either, but I don't know that it's quite so simple as, Pete's cool with personalities. Like, it might be more than that.
I look at this and I think offensive line is a real possibility. They have DJ Glaze playing a tackle. I think he's better at guard, and they could move him in. So I think if there was a tackle here that they liked, I think that would make sense. Membu would make a lot of sense. Otherwise, I do wonder what he thinks about some of these safeties. Like I can't make the cornerback case this high, but Starks, Wari, like there might be a safety he looks at and like, okay, I can build my defense around this guy.
I think Wari is really interesting here.
I think Janae Barron from Texas is like a very Pete kind of pick. Like
pretty high for him.
It's too high. That's the problem. I think they would have to trade out. I like Tep McMillan here. I just heard those list of names of receivers, and Pete's always talked about how he's wanted like the big receiver. The GM's from Tampa who had Mike Evans for years.
I'm convinced.
Yeah. And then you have his college coordinator that had his best season, Pete's son. So
any objections? Because I think that's a good call. I have the same reaction every time I see the Ashton Genty pick. I'm like, maybe. I don't think so, though. Like, Pete doesn't do what you tell him to do. That's not Pete. And he'll love that press conference when everyone will be like, I can't wait to see the Pete draft clues, this year.
Oh, man.
All right. Jets at 7. Let's be quicker with this one, unless you guys have a bunch of we got Shedeur that's fallen now. You've got Mason Graham who's fallen now. What are you guys thinking here?
I think Mason Graham would make a lot of sense. They have a defensive head coach, good value. I think the outside shot now that Membu's off the board is Tyler Warren, who has been linked to them.
Yep.
There's not a lot of sure things. It would be very Jetsy to take that. They were very interested in Bowers, even though it's a new regime. I saw Todd McShade say today, Jets to draft a tight end is very good value.
There was a lot of thought they were going to take a tight end last year, right?
Bowers,
right? And they didn't do it and had that work out.
They took the tackle last year.
If this was Detroit here, we would just say Mason Graham, move on, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think I'm not convinced that Mason Graham's going to be a better player than the tight ends available here. I think they're in similar categories. I think positional value wise, you're 100% right. Defensive tackles way more valuable.
I think it's hard to think Mason Graham gets, and if he gets past here, I don't know if he gets past the Panthers, right?
Well, he's definitely going to the Panthers. Yeah, if he gets past here.
This seems pretty easy, Mason Graham, to me. Taking a tight end, I don't know.
I find that pretty convincing, Jeff. I think you could be totally right, Nathan. Probably doesn't matter that much because he'd go the next pick if he didn't go here. I think we'd all agree on that. But their tight end situation's pretty bad. Jeremy Rucker, Stone Smart. Their defensive tackle position, obviously they got Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson. I think, Jeff, I gave you the tiebreaker last time. I think Nathan will go with you this time.
Mason Graham. Yeah.
There we go.
Get out of here, Tyler Warren.
We'll go with Mason Graham.
Tyler
Carolina
Warren.
Panthers. Carolina Panthers with their almost disaster and then not disaster quarterback. You've got Mr. Morgan, Dan Morgan, and Mr. Canales leading the charge over there. You've got Tommy Tremble as their starting tight end. Their receiving core, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Adam Thielen, David Moore. It feels like if they care about their quarterback, they would give him some more weapons.
You are right, but you're on the depth chart, I'm guessing. Go look at their edge position. It is sad.
Yeah.
And this
Derek
is where...
Brown.
No, Derek's inside, so...
Oh, sorry. Why is left defensive end? Yeah, so outside linebacker, Jadeveon Clowney is what it says here, but isn't he... Is he a 2-year deal?
Yeah, he's an edge. I think that's all.
And then DJ Wanham. Yeah, it's not good.
So I look at Jalen Walker. I look at Shamar Stewart. I would think those, or Michael Williams, one of the Brian favorite edge group. I think it's going to be someone in there. But Tyler Warren, I haven't thought about that here. That would make some sense.
That, to me, I think makes the most sense. Like, he would fit so well with Bryce Young too. Like, you know, Bryce Young is not a big field stretcher, and so having a good tight end like that, I think there's a lot of ways that you can build your offense into that. If Young is your quarterback, and safety valve, and the other stuff that he can bring to the offense, and he's also an awesome at contested catches, and so like you don't necessarily like. I just think he'd be such a nice fit for Bryce Young. Now they're probably not like probably all about making sure Young is successful still, but with offensive minded head coach and all that kind of stuff, I just think it fits really cleanly.
The way I look at this, like to all the points that Nathan's making, if Bryce Young doesn't work, they're all going to lose their jobs, even though they didn't make the deals that necessarily got them there. But like, that's how it's going to work, because and taking a defensive player is not going to help Bryce Young. I mean, yes, it might help the team win, but they have no weapons. They have no one for him to be going to. And I think they've got to be doing everything possible to help that kid be the guy. And a tight end can be a young quarterback's best friend. So I think that's the play here.
This is what I think they should do. I'm trying to guess what I think they will do. So I think what you guys are saying is right, because I brought him up.
I'm like literally trying to say what I think they will do from a logic perspective. You think they won't?
I think they're going to draft edge. I just think it's too big of a hole. And even I heard Dave Canales say, like, I would love to do offense, but our defense was 32nd in the league last year, and we need to fix that. But look, I brought up Warren as well. Like, I like the idea.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much I'm not looking whatever other mock draft has. I think you're right. Jalen Walker is probably one of the most frequent comps, mocks to him, to this team, to Carolina. Man, we can do it. I think that's a weird pick, man. Like Jalen Walker, a 245-pound edge that's 6'1", and it's also an off-ball linebacker. Like, that is a weird move to say that that's your move to like take your defense to the next level.
Yeah, that's why I brought up Shamar Stewart as well. That would be.
I mean, I like Shamar, but that's top 10 pick. Man, I mean, you're right. Like, some people have him that high. That is a big gamble. So I'm going to give, I think I gave Nathan the last one. Jeff, you make the call here. You've heard the arguments. Which way do you go?
I'm going to go with Jalen Walker here.
Okay. Good luck to them.
That's why
I hope that's what they do.
They're the Carolina Panthers for a reason. Like,
I hope that's what they do. I think I really think they should take a tight end if one's there for them, but we'll see. I mean, there are I would at least in their defense, or in your defense in this case, they could go tight end later in the draft. There are some decent tight ends later. All right, Saints at number 9.
This is
a team that now might be quarterback thirsty. There's conversation about Shedeur here, but they do have Spencer Rattler as well that they drafted last year and played a little bit. They can kind of go in a lot of different directions. Where do you guys think they go?
I was going to say, is there a position here? I guess running back is one, but beyond running back, is there a position that they could draft here that you'd be like, wow, why'd they do that? Like, I think literally anything you'd be like, yeah, makes sense. They need it.
No, they have the bleakest roster outlook in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have no like good young players other than like the receiver Olave. They're too old. They've been pushing the cap forward for years. The quarterback is injured. First time head coach who is like as vanilla as it gets. Like, they need everything. And Gentry might even make sense too. Like, who's like, they have Alvin Kamara who's like 30 years old and starting to decline. Like, literally they need I don't think there's a single position where I'd be shocked.
The odds right now, -120 that they pick quarterback, which is fascinating because they're 9th. That's implying that the odds are betting Shedeur Sanders is going to fall unless you think that they would take Jackson Dart.
There's a lot of chatter about Dart there. I think that would be absolutely nuts in the top 10. But
he's from
who's been the Saints' best quarterback the last 5 years?
Well, Drew Brees is probably within the 5-year time frame, isn't he?
Yeah, but how good was he?
Jameis?
Not Jameis. Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Jalen Milroe time. He's going 9. They're going to just make the whole offense out of Taysom Hill, but better and faster. It's Jalen Milroe time.
There's been crazier things. There's been crazier things. Let's go with the odds here that they're going to pick a quarterback. What do we think is most likely that they're going to like? I'd guess Jackson Dart between the three.
Yeah, Todd McShay made the case that Dart is far more of a Kellen Moore kind of.
I was gonna say, is Kellen Moore gonna coach Shedeur Sanders?
It seems odd. That's the case he was making. He's like, that doesn't really fit.
New Orleans also feels like the place that the Sanders family would be back channeling and be like, don't
take us.
Like, you guys are so irrelevant.
Yeah. They
would you think about Kellen Moore in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts and the success they had there, a little bit of mobility. That's where the Jalen Milroe thing is not crazy, to be honest.
Like, they could wait till second round and take Milroe.
But Dart is also pretty mobile. Dart will move, and Shedeur Sanders will not. So I'll make the call on this one. I'm going to go with Jackson Dart as a pretty shocking second quarterback taken.
Because if it's not a quarterback, we're just throwing grasping at straws here. So, as Nathan said, it can literally be anything.
Yes. All right, now we get the Chicago Bears. I want to make a quick case. I think this is Ashton Genty. I think this is where he goes.
So do I.
I don't know how they don't take offensive line here, but...
Well, they did a lot of work on their offensive line this offseason, and I think if Will Campbell or Membu's available, I think they would. Maybe they'd go Kelvin Banks.
I think it's what Nathan said before that's so real. Like, they need a left tackle. Unless they take Josh Simmons here.
Simmons is not crazy. I think Simmons is maybe the best true left tackle prospect.
Yeah, if he wasn't coming off the ACL.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think they can get a Simmons, Connerly, someone round 2. Because they have 2 second-round picks, if I'm correct. So
yeah, and they're pretty high up there. Let's go Ashton Genty here, unless you guys...
I bet on them to take a running back, so I am a believer in this.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. I know Robert Mays is not a fan, but
that should make us cheer for it more.
They're gonna have no excuses for Caleb Williams. They got the offensive coordinator, head coach, guru. They spent all this on offensive line. They got the receivers. They've got the tight end. Well, they kind of have the tight end. They have now a running back. Good luck to you, Caleb. All right. So now the fun part, the Giants dropped all the way from 3 to 11. Did the Giants take Kelvin Banks here?
I think we did a lot of what we've done to this point has been to get Shedeur Sanders to the Giants.
I think it's got to be Shedeur.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I hadn't been thinking about that.
Well, I think if they're trading out and they're debating taking Shedeur at 3, I think the whole point would be that they can get the capital and still get him. I don't think it's what they should do, but I think John Mara would rip out Brian Dable's head if they don't take a quarterback here.
All right.
8 on the roster. What do they need another one for?
Like a Russ Jameis and Shedeur would be the most screwed up quarterback.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
In New York, that would be mental.
Absolute shit show if this happens. But yeah, I get it. I get it. I think that is the pick that ends up getting those 2 guys fired. All right. That's awesome. Okay. So 3 quarterbacks in the top 11. Would be different than I think what most people are predicting at the currently. I don't think it's crazy.
The Jackson Dart thing feels a little crazy to me. I get it. Like, I'm not saying it's not. There's no rationale behind it, but oof, that's a lot, man.
Yeah. It would be a surprise. I don't think that's as crazy as Michael Penix going 8 last year.
No
Ooh,
one
I
had
don't
that.
know.
No one had that predicted though.
No, but like Penix, I don't know if you compare those two just as prospects. I think.
Oh no,
100%.
I heard someone say today that Penix would be the second pick in this draft.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's got a good shot to beat out Cam Ward even.
Yeah, like
and
he was supposed to, and his over-under last year was 32.5 the day of the draft. So,
but to just say like one beat there, I mean, Jeff, tell me if I'm wrong, but I've seen multiple mocks with Jackson Dart going to the Saints. Like, it's not like it's like way off, like that nobody's saying this could happen.
No, especially after like it randomly became like quarterback became like the favorite for their spot. And a lot of people said they like Jackson Dart. It's just, it might be 9. They might move up to get back into the first round, but there are a lot of connections there.
Yeah.
And he fits the profile of what they like historically.
We should be cheering for it. As many quarterbacks going before the Seahawks pick as possible. All right. Dallas, the Cowboys. This is an interesting team. What the hell are they doing in Dallas? Do they go receiver? Do they go Matthew Golden here?
I think that's an option. I also wonder if it's Tyler Warren.
Oh, he's still on the board.
He's still on the board. So is Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
Warren feels like the Jerry pick, but
the odds right now, the odds of the most likely position that they would take is wide receiver. The second most likely position is offensive line. Third most likely is cornerback.
Cornerback, huh?
They're another team though that needs a left tackle, right? Like their guard, they have the dude out of Oklahoma from last year. They've got some guards, so they're a team that needs a left tackle. So do they feel good enough about Josh Simmons, or do they feel
Simmons
good
is
enough
an
about
interesting one.
Yeah, I wondered about Banks here.
Banks is Texas, like they certainly are close to the kid. I mean, they just grabbed Tyler Guyton last year. They have
Guyton, they have Tyler Smith, and they have BB.
And then if you look at, tight end Jake Ferguson, I think they feel pretty good about Ferguson. I don't know. I mean, obviously Warren and Loveland are better prospects than Ferguson. Like receiver feels like what the Cowboys would do.
It feels very Jerry Jones. Like we need a receiver. Like I don't care what the other needs are. Like
I could also see Shamar Stewart going here as like again, Texas guy, super traitsy. All they have is a pass rusher is Micah Parsons. I could see them to go in that direction.
Everyone's saying that Jerry likes Texas guys, but he's not he's an Arkansas guy. They have one player from Texas on the roster right now.
Okay. Huh. This is a tough one. I honestly my gut is Matthew Golden, but you guys could push me in one direction. Nathan, I haven't given you one to choose in a while. Jeff, before Nathan chooses, who do you think that they would pick here?
I think it's Golden. I think Jerry's going to get hooked on the idea of what the media is saying.
Yeah, I think
try to predict what the 84-year-old or whatever how old he is, Jerry Jones is going to do. It could be Omari and Hampton for all we know.
That's actually not a bad call. We haven't talked about running back for them. I think that's absolutely a possibility.
I agree with the logic, but have a different outcome. And I think the guy Jerry falls in love with is Tyler Warren.
Okay.
I think that's the splash he wants to make.
That would be a fun pick.
That's interesting. I don't know if I see that, but I like this. We're doing this together because that way we won't end up with just what I think is going to happen. That's way more boring.
If I hear the Tyler Warren thing it's Matthew Golden. That's not a big question, but I'm just trying to jarify my brain, and I think maybe he yeehaws it a little bit with Tyler Warren.
All right, so we're at pick 13. We've got 5 more to go before we've done all the picks before the Seahawks. The Dolphins at pick 30. Excuse me, getting choked up. Pick 13. You've still got, they could snake Colston Loveland. They could go. Kelvin Banks makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, that's
if he's available here. What do you think on this one, Jeff? Actually, Nathan, you go first, and then Jeff, I'm going to give you the decision of what they do.
This is one I have no feel for, so take it away, Jeff.
My point was, if you want a sneaky New Orleans style bleakness roster, Miami is emerging as that team. Like Tyreek Hill wants out, Jalen Ramsey is trying to get traded now. They lost their left tackle, Teron Armstead just retired. They lost Calais Campbell. They are a weird team. As Nathan said, they need kind of everything. Like their best player last year was a safety, Javon Holland. They let him walk in free agency. They've let Christian Wilkins out of the building. Jalen Waddle they have there, so it's not going to be a receiver, but like there's a pretty good case for everything. They're a zone blocking team with Mike McDaniel, so I did think Kelvin Banks as well, considering they lost Teron Armstead. But like safety, this could be an Emignori. This could be a Starks. This could be one Will Johnson. They're talking about trading Ramsey. This could be Jade Barron. It's just a hard call. Like they have a lot of freaking holes, man.
I think the Armstead retirement and like the state of that offensive line, how much when they were humming, they were a running team. And with the amount of outside stuff that they do and how good Banks is at targeting on the move, for me, this seems like the right. I mean, maybe this is the Josh Simmons landing spot. Like he's more of a true left tackle than Banks is.
What about Jahad Campbell? They have Jordan Brooks, and then they have Terrell Dodson.
Who they re-signed.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that. They have some edge with Robinson and Phillips and Chubb to some degree, I guess. And so, like, is Jahad Campbell the best defensive? Is he the best defensive player on the board still? Like, I know it's a linebacker; it's not the biggest need, but hell of a player, tone setter, like someone that you could think about building a defense around. Put him next to Brooks. One guy going forward, one guy's going backwards. That's oversimplified, but.
It depends on the medical of him. I think he would have been gone now if he didn't have that labrum surgery. But God, he is a clean player, and they need some of those guys. And they've lost a lot of leadership too. Like Calais Campbell's gone, Teron Armstead's gone. I don't know if Tua is rallying the guys, so I think there's a good case for it. But like, man, their offensive line is bad. And like, they lost Robert Hunt last year.
Is there any chance that they go receiver?
No.
I mean,
it's like the one thing they have.
Well, this rumors about Tyreek Hill getting traded.
Didn't he just get arrested again or something?
Yeah, I thought so.
I think Emignori would be
Emignori would make some sense, and like one thing we know about Mike McDaniel is he just loves speed. All right, so who did I give the last pick to? That was Nathan. So Jeff, this is going to be your pick. I think that they would go Kelvin Banks here, but I think safety is certainly a possibility, and some of these others you mentioned.
I'm going to go Kelvin Banks. I think in the zone scheme, he is the best fit.
Do you think there's any chance they'd go Colston Loveland here over Jonnu Smith? Like their current.
Jonnu had a pretty good year last year.
He did have a good year for them.
It feels luxury.
All right, so you said who?
Kelvin Banks.
You said Kelvin Banks. Okay. All right. And then we get to the Colts, and everybody's assuming it's whatever tight ends left. So Loveland would be the pick here. Is there any reason to think they won't do that? I think it's a weird pick.
I saw Hayden Winks, who I thought has had pretty good analysis lately. I think he tweeted out today. It's like, I don't get why everyone just gives them a tight end here. They already have 4 receivers they can't get the ball to and a quarterback that can't throw.
Right.
So, like, is this Jihad Campbell?
Yeah, if you look at the Colts from last year, I mean, talk about it. I mean, that's just a train wreck. Like Anthony Richardson is a massive anchor on that franchise, and they're not going to be able to get out from it. At least they're going to have to see what he is this year. They were the 20th ranked offense, the 15th ranked defense. And if you look at like where they have some talent, they have DeForest Buckner, they have Grover Stewart, which is a pretty good interior defensive line. Edge rush isn't, I mean, they drafted Latu last year. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. But for the first time in many years, their off-ball linebacker situation is pretty bleak.
They lost a couple guys, I think, too, in free agency.
They did. And so I don't think Jihad Campbell here would be a crazy thing to do. And to Nathan's point, he's definitely the highest quality player available. But it's an off-ball linebacker, you know? So, like, everybody seems really convinced. Like, what's been consistent with the Colts is they take the highest relative athletic score player on the board. Like, they have some crazy, like, I saw the average RAS score, and they're like by far the highest RAS score team. They just good athlete. We're going to take you. So that would mean either Shamar Stewart, or, I mean, I don't know how good of a Colston Loveland athletic score is, but I'm sure it's not terrible.
Emin Worry's still on the board too, right?
Emin Worry too. Those would be,
yeah.
Like if you're just going freak athletes, you go that direction. Their safeties are Nick Cross and Cam Bynum. They did sign Charvarius Ward. Jihad Campbell would be on that list as well. I don't know.
Yeah, what was Jihad Campbell's RAS score?
Jihad Campbell's RAS score was very high.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was 9.87.
Like he moved like at the combine. Like he looked different than everyone else
Yeah.
in his drills. I kind of like the Jihad Campbell idea.
Yeah, I say let's go Jihad Campbell.
We're gonna go Jihad Campbell.
I don't know. We started off thinking like, what will teams actually do? And I feel like we've drifted.
Well, I would go Colston Loveland here as like I think what they'll probably do, but I'm fine with going a little bit far afield on this one. Jihad Campbell. I don't think it's that crazy. And if we look back at the Colts draft history, I'm going to do a quick look at this.
They're
I'm
very
curious.
into like the high character Chris Ballard.
So they took Latu, edge rusher. They took obviously Anthony Richardson, that's Kwity Paye, defensive lineman. They've traded out of the first round a lot. Quentin Nelson, a guard. Malik Hooker, a safety. Ryan Kelly, a center. They haven't really gone inside backer. Like when they got Darius Leonard,
He was
I think that's
Really?
a high pick in the second round.
yeah,
I think it was the same draft as Nelson.
2018. Yeah, it was second round pick. I'm going to overrule this. We're going to go Colston Loveland.
That list of players kind of convinced me more on Campbell.
Really, like they don't take those
Yeah, but
kind
they
of
take
players.
they clearly don't value position. Like they don't have position value. They had a guard, a safety. Yeah.
So why wouldn't that make sense for tight end?
Well, it doesn't make sense for tight end. It's just I think the inside linebacker is a better player. But
I agree. I'm overruling.
all right, overrule. This was yours.
I'm
Let's
overruling.
go.
That's my one veto.
This is where me and Nathan text each other after the draft.
You-
Being like, our GM's an idiot. Let's go for beers.
Yes, you're not wrong. Are the Atlanta Falcons is Mike Green like the clear, like they need edge rush, and Mike Green seems like exactly what they need.
Or Shamar.
You guys make the call here. I would say Mike Green, but I will let you guys argue amongst yourselves on this one.
I trying to think of what their tendencies might be if they would prefer the ultra athletic guy. I don't think that's been a Raheem Morris thing necessarily.
Could this be Jihad Campbell?
Hmm.
I don't have a take on the Falcons. I'll be honest. Like, it's going to be a defensive player of some sort, but they need all of them.
Mike Green feels pretty.
Yeah, they have no speed rush, so Mike Green makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, the other guy, they signed Leonard Floyd. That's their best pass rusher right now. Their other pass rusher is Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah.
And then Braylon Trice, the Husky, who will come off of injury.
Yeah, I just wonder about his off-field stuff, but it's never really stopped Atlanta before.
He just something about him playing indoor that dome. It makes it feels like a hand in glove.
I'm not going to argue. I have no feel for that team.
All right, so let's go Mike Green. We're almost there. So we got the Cardinals at 16. This is also an interesting one.
They need a lot.
They do. You know what's funny, guys? Like when I was thinking earlier about Arizona, I was like, what do they need to really take the next step? And honestly, the thing I think that would help them the most is a good receiver. And I'm not saying that they would take one because they just took one. But if Marvin Harrison actually was the player that they drafted, that would be the biggest. Like when Kyler Murray was connecting with DeAndre Hopkins, that was the best his football had been in the NFL. And they did not have that connection, he and Marvin Harrison Jr. last year at all. Michael Wilson's a nice number 2 that probably should be a number 3 for a fully functional offense. I'm not saying at all. I'm not making the case that they're going to take a receiver, but it feels like they got Trey McBride, obviously. But that feels like they've invested a lot in that position, and they need that position to actually start playing to that draft status. Where do you think they go? Obviously, defense is probably the place that they have the most to do.
Will Johnson, maybe?
That's been my thought with
corner makes a lot of sense. They only have one decent corner in Garrett Williams, right? And he's a slot.
And kind of the way Will Johnson plays, where he's not really like a long speed guy, he's more of a read and react, kind of fits what they do. They drafted what's his name pretty high last
Max
year,
Melton,
and that didn't seem to work. And to win in this division, you got to cover a lot of receivers. So Will Johnson seems to be the best mix of need and talent available.
I'll buy that. I mean, the other positions that you could say offensive line.
Who's left?
You know,
Zabel.
You could go Zabel.
Simmons.
You could go Simmons
They
or Jackson.
They have the Simmons case. They have the offensive line coach from Ohio State as their offensive line coach.
Is this another Jahad Campbell opportunity?
I think that's a great call.
Oh yeah, we forgot about him.
I think that's a great call. I think Shamar Stewart's another possibility here.
Yeah, they need more edge rush too.
They definitely need more edge rush. They got Josh Sweat in the offseason. They did a sneaky thing in getting Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson. Like their run defense is going to be considerably more stout than it's been. But like they're counting on Darius Robinson, who was an early pick. They got Josh Sweat. I don't think it's crazy for them to get Shamar Stewart, but I think Jahad Campbell's a really good. I think Jahad Campbell, Will Johnson, all three of those are really good calls. Yeah, where do you guys fall on this one?
I forgot about Jahad Campbell, even though I just made the case for him for like 2 picks. So when Nathan said him, it's like that kind of.
It's because we had him on the Colts, and then Brian snaked us on it. So.
I did.
I think I like the idea of Jahad Campbell more than Will Johnson, even though I brought up Will Johnson.
Nathan,
let's go the other way.
No, I think it's Jahad Campbell.
Okay. I want to look really quickly at the odds for what's the most likely first player first position that they take. Just I'm curious what it's thinking. Right now, it's defensive lineman edge is most likely, then offensive lineman, then cornerback, then linebacker.
So who's left? It's Shamar, Michael Williams.
Michael Williams totally.
Yeah, it does.
He's like a Cardinals player. Like a guy, I'm glad that there's not going to be a Seahawk. That like Darius Robinson and Michael Williams are like in the same category to me.
Yeah, we may be giving them too much credit here.
Yeah. Okay. I still think the Campbell pick makes a lot of sense. They'd be really strong up the middle with Buda Baker, Jalen Thompson at safety, and then Campbell. They've been trying to find an inside backer for a while, and it hasn't worked out. I think let's stick with Jahad Campbell.
Cool.
I think that's a great call. All right, so last pick before the Seahawks, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals have some similar needs to the Seahawks, and the Bengals. The odds are heavy odds that the first pick that they would take, first position, is defensive lineman or edge. That's negative 155, then cornerback, then safety. Then surprisingly, the offensive line is the fourth most likely. I would have guessed offensive line would be pretty high up there for them. But are they like, if I'm the Bengals, I actually think Derek Harmon makes a lot of sense. I think he's a perfect like scheme fit for what they do.
The Bengals are always a little weird too, right?
Yes,
extremely.
It's so weird. Yeah, I'm so glad that we don't have that owner. My God.
Yeah, they have like 5 scouts or something, like no joke. And they usually, like, the joke on them is they just take the next guy on like the media board list. And they don't even do any scouting. So like Will Johnson could be the pick, but I think some of these D linemen, because Trey Hendrickson's demanding a trade right now. And they have basically nothing. Everyone's gone that they've had.
So the top options, like the guys that are top of the board, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart.
I like that bucket.
Yeah,
Shamar Stewart does not feel like a Bengal to me.
No,
they don't. I don't feel like they understand Raz. Like that's not something they're jumping all over.
Well, and they also, I heard a pretty convincing argument from Robert Mays and I think it was Ben Solak. I was listening to them today, and about, you know, they're trying to keep Trey Hendrickson. They drafted Miles Murphy. They have Joseph Asai. They kind of like have enough invested in the edge right now that it's defensive tackle that they really like where they need somebody.
Kenneth Grant?
Could be Kenneth Grant. Like,
it's too early for me.
Yeah, I just don't think he's a first round pick. I don't think he tested high enough to be a first round pick.
So who's left? Walter Nolan?
I think Nolan's a possibility. I think that's a good call. I think you've got Derek Harmon. You've got my gosh. Let me pull open the list real quick. So if we go to the big board and we look at defensive tackles, interior defenders, let's go thin. Yeah, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders. I think it's too early for him. No. Tyleik Williams, probably too early for him. I mean, I'm a big fan of Omar Norman Lott. I don't think he'll go this high. So I think Michael Williams, but that again is another edge player.
I like Will Johnson.
All right.
I kind of feel Will Johnson too.
I mean, their cornerback situation, DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt, they do need some corner.
He's like
help.
A high guy on the media board. It's an easy sell.
Okay. All right. I'll go there. So Will Johnson, for the record, my prediction when we get to my prediction board, it's going to say Derek Harmon right there. But of all these picks, Cam Ward, number 1, Travis Hunter, 2, Abdul Carter, 3, Campbell, 4, Membu, 5, Tet McMillan, 6, Mason Graham, 7, Jalen Walker, 8, Jackson Dart, 9, Genty, 10, Shedeur Sanders, 11, Tyler Warren, 12, Kevin Banks Jr., 13, Colston Loveland, 14, Mike Green, 15, Jahad Campbell, 16, Will Johnson, 17. Give me the one that you guys, each of you, feel best about, and which of the one do you think is like absolutely not going to happen. And Cam Ward gets to be pulled off. Let's take the top 2 off that list.
The one that's kind of I sneaky like is Ted McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
That just feels right, and it's not like definitely not consensus, I don't think, but it just makes a lot of sense to me.
What was the report that Pete Carroll initially wanted DK Metcalf and Geno Smith?
Yep.
He only got one. I think you're right. I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Pete loves big receivers. Like when they got here, they got Mike Williams, they got Sidney Rice. Like at USC, they always had the big receiver, and I don't know. I like that pick too. I forgot his son was the OC for Jed Fish last year in Arizona. So,
all right, what about the thing that is least likely?
I think both Dart and Sanders going in the top 12.
You think that is less likely than the 49ers trading up for Abdul Carter?
Yes. Yes,
You
I
do.
That's
You do.
how bad I think these quarterbacks are.
Interesting.
I mean, obviously that was like a swing, right? Like just kind of predicting, hey, something weird might happen. What could it be? So, I mean, I don't know how likely it is, but I don't think it's dumb or anything.
No, it's not dumb. I wouldn't bet on it.
The ones that I just don't have, like, it's more about the teams, I think, where I lose kind of confidence. Like Membu to the Jags, like it's not bad. It certainly could happen, but they could do so many different things. Banks to the Dolphins and Campbell to the Cardinals. Those are like some of those teams where I'm just like, I got no idea. Like they could do anything.
Yeah.
I think the Jags are in like the worst spot. Because like usually at 5, you're getting like a stud. And like if it's not Membu, it's Mason Graham, and if not him, then who? It's like you're 5th overall. Like you're expecting to get like Malik Neighbors or Devin Witherspoon or someone cool. It's like here's our right tackle who we're not sure can play left tackle.
Yeah.
Well, here's Mason Graham, who's a short arm guy with no pass rush.
There wasn't like a lot of super courageous things that we did here. I think Jackson Dart is probably the most off mock thing that we did. All these other guys have been drafted at the positions they were drafted here or higher in most cases. So I think that feels a little bit off to me that in this draft that it's going to go that chalk according to consensus. I think people are just going to like value guys differently. I think we're going to see some weird names that aren't the consensus.
I really hope so. Like my biggest fear about this draft is it just becomes chalky and boring and like nothing interesting happens. I want to see some weirdness. I want to see some really off the board stuff.
Yeah, and I think that starts at probably 5 with the Jags. I think that's where this thing goes off the rails and don't know where things will go. I think the Jags and the Raiders and the Jets and the Panthers, like there's like, it's hard to say. I am super like, I'm sure, I love that this is recorded. I'm super out on Jalen Walker as a top 10 pick. Like, that's a guy that I could absolutely see in the 20s. Like
you would. So Daniel Jeremiah actually said today, funny enough, I listened to his interview like an hour before our show, said teams from the 20s have called him this week asking if he's going to make it down there. So there is buzz that he could slip.
Well, I'll tell you one of the questions I'm going to ask Mike McDonald on Monday. I'm very curious. I think I don't know of other hybrid Mike linebacker edge rushers. And we've got 2 of them in that are expected to go in the first round with Jahad Campbell and Jalen Walker. I've never seen that before. That doesn't mean it's not been there, but I don't know how you deploy those guys. Like when it gets to third down, are you taking, if you had a Fred Warner level player, and Jahad Campbell might be like one of the best inside backers in football if things work out, are you taking him off coverage and putting him at edge and then bringing on a backup Mike? Like, are you? Like, I find that a fascinating, like, chess game for a defensive coordinator to have to make that decision. And if you're not, then they're not hybrid players. They're just an inside backer or they're just an edge. And if that's where Jalen Walker, at least Jahad Campbell to me is very clearly an inside backer. Like he could be one of the best inside backers in football, period. Jalen Walker feels like very much like maybe not one of the best edge rushers, but also not one of the best off-ball backers. So then like he's in this no man's land.
Weird. Yeah, this is every time I've like listened to these mock draft podcasts or I've done these mocks, like you can see if the Seahawks pick how many people are still on the board. I find every time I like listen to a mock draft podcast, like teams like the Eagles and the Lions end up with like someone that we could have easily drafted at 18. And you look, there's like Eamon Warry's still there, Starks is still there, Zabel's still there. It's like it's going to be one of those years where like teams who pick in like the 30s are going to end up with someone good, and we're going to be like, how the hell do they do this again? And it's going to happen. I can see it already in this draft. Like there's like 12 guys I'd be comfortable taking at this spot.
Well, so we don't have to make the pick here, but I am curious, each of you, if this was the first 17 picks, who do you take at 18? Nathan, you go first.
Who do I take? Josh Simmons.
You're consistent.
Yeah, no doubt on that. I am starting to wonder if Mykel Williams isn't a Mike guy. If he's not the guy that. So that's who I'm starting to that's the guy that I'm getting nervous about jumping in there because I don't love him, and I can see where McDonald might love him, and honestly I could see where he might be really good on this defense, but it would not make me super happy for sure.
Yeah, Jeff, who do you think you go for here?
It's probably the boring answer at this point, but I would still take Grace Abel.
I'm getting increasing like instincts that he may be the guy that everyone's got in the first round that ends up back where kind of he's expected to be taken somewhere in the second. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's like,
it's probably where he should go.
It is where he should go. If you pin me down right now, I think it's Shamar Stewart or Eamon Warry. If this is where they are. If these are the guys. And like, by the way, Matthew Golden's still available, and I still hate that idea.
No,
like,
no.
Why?
Why do I hate the idea?
Yeah.
There is no receiver.
Yeah, he's a receiver. You don't want a receiver. Yeah.
There's no receiver I would be good with. It's zero to do with Matthew Golden. Like, other than the fact that he is not like, if we were talking about the last year's class, if Brian Thomas was sitting here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could kind of at least like, okay, that guy's a dude. You know, you might be passing on a really good player. Matthew Golden, to me, I don't think he's even at like a number one. I think Matthew Golden is like a good speed receiver who is going to be a complementary player. I don't think he's going to be the dominant player.
I don't know. This is way too high a bar to set, but like, why can't he be a Justin Jefferson type? Now, the production is, a big difference, right? Like, but
Justin Jefferson was one of the best college receivers ever.
Yeah, but like, nobody thought he was the best receiver in that class. Nobody thought he was the first round pick.
Yeah.
And to me, there are similarities in those two players for sure.
I actually see him as a lot like Tyler Lockett. But like,
that's more what I see him as.
But I see him like a rocket fueled Lockett.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lockett was. He's
Lockett
definitely
was very
faster than
good.
Lockett. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think if you put rocket fuel on Lockett, I think the way they win is very similar. Like, I remember Nathan first pointed out Golden in the end of the college year, and I watched him in the playoffs, and I was like, holy shit. And he was supposed to go in the second round at that point. And I think so he is a fun player, like as fun as a player as anyone. But like, I'm with you, Brian. We've just cycled through receivers for so many times. Everyone's like, oh, if you bring the third receiver, all the problems will be solved. And it's like, no, the problem's still the same. So it's probably better to wait on a guard just from value because I think you are reaching a bit, but I just can't do another. If they wait till 50 and they get cleaned out, I just can't live with that. I'd rather just take Jalen Noel or something like that in the second round.
Do we think that Shamar Stewart is a McDonald guy?
I do. I think he's like Jadeveon Clowney-esque.
Yeah, but he got Jadeveon Clowney like 6-7 years into the league. He didn't, and Jadeveon Clowney was an incredible college football player.
He was.
What do you guys make? What do you guys make of all these visits with like the guys in this range? Like they don't usually look at this many first round guys. They got Will Johnson and Emanuori and Stewart. Who else do they have? McMillan, and it's like
Micah Williams.
Michael, it seems abnormal for them, right? Like, am I misreading that?
It feels a little heavier on the first round picks than normal. I mean, you could put Jalen Milroe in that category as well, depending on how you think of where he's going to go.
Campbell was rumored.
Tet McMillan they met with.
Yeah, like there's a lot of guys in that range.
Does this speak to just the uncertainty of how this draft will fall? Because again, like once you get to 5, it's like, I don't know, this guy could go to the Jags or he could go at like 22. Like, who knows, right?
What are you thinking? What is in your head? What is in your head?
I think that they're not going to draft an offensive lineman with their first pick. That's what I think. And
that was my gut.
I think it's going to be just this massive, like, just dropping them on the table right there. Like, you all want us to do it. It's not how our board reads. We're not going to just push a player up 2 rounds to make you all happy. And they're not going to take an offensive lineman. And it's going to be one of these guys. I think that's what's going to happen. Let's read these names of at least verified visits that we think could be first round picks. And you guys pick of these guys, which ones you'd want it to be. If you only got to choose these, Nick Emanuori, Micah Williams, I'll put Jalen Milroe in the list. Tet McMillan, Shamar Stewart, Will Johnson, Jahad Campbell.
I think it's Micah Williams.
That's who you think. Okay.
I mean, are you asking me like what I want them to do?
What would you want? What would you be like of those? Like, which would you be like, all right, if we're not going to get an offensive lineman, I feel best about
with the way that just went, that like the mock that we just did. Like the guys that are even alive there are Micah Williams, Shamar Stewart, Jalen Milroe,
Emanuori.
I think I'm still Micah Williams. I don't know.
Jeff?
I think the easiest story to get behind will be Shamar Stewart.
You think more than Emanuori?
Yeah, I just think because of
Emanuori, just Stewart with actual accomplishments.
I think it's pure position. Yeah, you're right. I think it's just the pure positional value.
Actually, you know what? I'm pretty sure like the last time I was on the pod, I argued this the other way. So I guess
here's where I just keep coming back to Stewart, and I get so much blowback on Stewart. Everyone's like, his production sucked. I do a show every day. You don't think I know what Shamar Stewart's college production looks like? Like, trust me. I've looked, I've listened. But here's what I'm going to say. When Mike McDonald and John Schneider were at the Senior Bowl, all they did is follow around the offensive lineman. That's all they did. Like that I saw. Like that's the only time they came onto the field. And when there was this big, massive circle around the 1v1 pass rush drills, I was thinking about the offensive lineman. I was also looking at the edge rushers and the defensive lineman, whatever. But primarily, I'm looking at the offensive lineman. The most impressive player was not Mike Green, who bowled over Josh Connerly Jr. It was unquestionably Shamar Stewart. He doesn't have a great pass rush repertoire, but that guy like drops people on there. Like his speed to power was crazy. His get off was crazy. It was so different than anyone else there. And if you're telling me Mike McDonald is 5 steps away from that and not thinking like, I think I could use that. Like, I know what I could do with that. And then he literally gets the number 1 relative athletic score of any defensive end in the history of measurables.
See, I told you it's easy to build the case up for this guy.
I just I can see it. I can really see it.
And there is a track record of low production college edges turning into extremely good NFL players. Trayvon Walker's played well. I don't know if he's lived up to his pick or
Not number one overall, but he's been a double-digit sack guy.
Yeah, which he was not at all in college. You can go back to guys like Ziggy Ansah and guys like
Daniel
that.
Hunter.
Yep. So this is not a thing that never happens, right? Now, there are also the other examples, like the bust potential is certainly high with Stewart. But the idea that like, oh, he didn't do it in college, how can you do it in the NFL? Like, I don't know, go talk to Ziggy Ansah. Like, go talk. There's lots of guys that you can go talk to that couldn't figure it out in college and figured it out in the NFL across all kinds of positions. So
yeah, you're drafting for what you think someone's going to be, not what they've been already. But the only problem I have is like you got 4 edge rushers already. Like, how do you get this guy in the like you got Mafe, Hall, Nwosu, and Dexter Lawrence? Like, is that not overkill?
Not if you don't keep Uchenna Nwosu, but I guess they just redid his deal, so that seems less likely.
I guess maybe you don't sign Mafe, maybe if this guy's good, but like I don't.
Well, at 291 pounds, he's not necessarily going to compete with Mafe, right? Yeah, you can do more stuff with him. Now, it may take time if you have to teach him more. But, like Dexter Lawrence is like 83 years old and Shamar Stewart has a lot of versatility. So I don't know that, like, this is kind of like people keep talking about edge and I get it. Like, yeah, add a good edge player. That's never a bad thing. But I also have had this question for a while, like why some people seem to want to prioritize edge so highly when like there definitely are fit questions.
Yeah. I think those are all fair points. Yeah. We've been going for a while. We've got some Patron questions. Do you guys have time to stick on for a few more minutes, or do you got to go?
Sure.
No, I have time. That's
okay.
The draft talk's crazy, man. Like I had no idea we've been on for almost 2 hours.
Honestly, it's I mean, I'm enjoying that. That's always a good sign.
So you're not draft overkill. Maybe your intro was a lie.
I think maybe just you
just haven't been talking to the right. You needed me.
I haven't been talking to the right people. Yeah. I need you guys to quit your jobs and hang out with me in the mornings more often. The pay is awesome. Let me tell you.
I was going to say for the right amount of money, you can talk to me.
Me too.
All right, so I'm going back in the books to some of the Patreon questions here. By the way, if you want to ask questions to us, patreon.com/hawkbloggers, where you sign up to be able to do so. All right. Let's get to Chris Bailey. Asked this question. Other than Byron Murphy, the top players on our D-line are 30 and older. Additionally, it does not seem like we will get other young D linemen ready to become consistent impact players. How big of a priority should it be to select a top defensive lineman with an early pick? Nathan, this one's for you.
Early, not necessarily talking about 18, I think makes a lot of sense. I mean, we just talked about, I just said I think they take Michael Williams. I think he might be a McDonald guy. We talked about Shamar Stewart and how like he kind of maybe gets around some of your fit questions. So like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, offensive line is the number one priority for this team, but I think it is important for them to find ways to get younger, particularly on defensive line, like not just thinking about edge. I think Tyleik Williams is a guy that I've really, really fallen in love with. And so getting him at 50.
I think all three of us are on that bus.
Yeah, like that is an incredible idea to me too. And like how it opens up, moving Murphy to a better spot, more natural spot for him. But the flip side of this is like 30 is not that old for defensive line. I'm not expecting Leonard Williams to fall off a cliff anytime soon. And maybe I'm just like too influenced by all the names that just immediately flew out of my head. The guy on the Cardinals now, or the Calais Campbell.
He's like 40. He's like 38 or something.
Yeah, and there's a guy for the Saints who's Cam
Jordan.
Cam Jordan, and then is the Steelers dude still going strong, right?
Oh, right. The defensive tackle for the Steelers, Cam Hayward.
Cam Hayward, yeah. So if we can draft, if we can get Leonard Williams to change his name to Cam, then we got another 8 years to get out of him, I think.
Yeah. I like that. So Jeff, this comes from Troy. He says, should the team take a QB at 50 or 52?
Me, no. No, I think the opportunity cost is too big. If you don't take a guard at 18, you better take one at 50, 52. And I think between tight end, receiver, interior defensive line, I think the quarterback class is pretty crap in general. I disagree with John Schneider's take on that. And I think the opportunity cost there is massive. I think third round is where I would start looking. And I think that might be a stretch.
All right. Braxton has a question for me, so I'll answer it. He says, Brian, you've mentioned a few times now that you think the Seahawks should use the fifth-year option for Cross this offseason as opposed to extending him long-term. Could you explain the reasoning? So it's not as much as I think that they should. I'm pointing out that they have that as an option to exercise because what that can do, given that they've had, this was back when they were going to potentially, extend DK Metcalf and extend Geno Smith and have a lot of dollar outlay, a lot of cash outlay this year. You could not have to have the signing bonus for Charles Cross fall into this year by just taking his fifth-year option and negotiating his extension in a future year. And because he has not made a Pro Bowl, it's not a prohibitive number. It's going to be like 17 million or something, which is for a starting left tackle who's pushing towards Pro Bowl, like not really, but close in that category. That's a great deal. So they have enough cap space. They may choose to extend him early, but that's why I think there's a chance they might want to push cash into future years would be the reason they do it. All right. This is back for Nathan. This comes from Anders. The Seahawks are on the clock at pick 52. They've already drafted interior offensive line and wide receiver with their first two picks. You got a bunch of guys graded similarly left on your board at tight end, defensive tackle, cornerback, safety, linebacker, edge. Maybe there's some QBs you like. What position do you prioritize at 52?
I mean, I threw out Tyreek Williams. Would definitely be really excited about that. There are safeties who could be available around there that I really like. Maybe Makuba, maybe Winston. So it really like position starts to go out the window here. You could even talk me into Jadon Blue here. Like I would.
What?
I know.
In the second round?
That's my running back crush. I love that dude.
I do like him a lot too. But no more second round running backs, please.
No. So yeah, like at that point, it's really about the names and the position. I don't care at all about the position once you get like, again, there's extremes, running back, kicker, something like that. But like once you're into the second round, like find really good players.
I love that Nathan just made a case for a second round running back. I'm not going to forget that anytime soon. That's Jeff, crazy. For you, what are the sweet spots and drop offs in this year draft at our positions of need? So for an example would be like, what round of the best value do you have to draft a cornerback? And if you don't draft a cornerback by round X, you're going to get screwed. So let's take this specifically for interior offensive line. If you don't take an interior offensive line by, you're going to be screwed.
Probably 52. By 52, the guard group could really clear out. And especially like if you're hoping for Jared Wilson and hoping he gets there at 82 or wherever their pick is, that whole group might just wipe out unless you're just comfortable with those zone blocking late round guys like that Webb or Millum or something like that. But I think if you want like a quality guard, I think you got to take one by 52. I think clears up pretty, and then corner as well drops off pretty quick. The second half draft of corners is not good.
So this leads well into the next question. This is for both of you guys. This comes from Patton, and he says, does the abysmal success rate of guards taken in the first two rounds since 2016 deter you from taking one early?
No, absolutely not.
Is it abysmal? Actually,
yeah.
I found my research has said like the early drafted guards have been a very high hit rate.
So I will share what Patton put in.
I remember Quentin Nelson,
what he put in Discord. So you guys can see the kind of quality content we've got on Discord. So here's what I disagree with some of his decisions about what's a success and not a success.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the guys, and I have not verified this is an accurate list, but Patton's pretty thorough, so I would say this probably is. One that I disagree with, I would put Will Hernandez as a success. I think he's been a good guard in the NFL. I think Steve Avila.
Well, Tyler Smith is absolutely a successful pick. He's been a Pro Bowl player already.
Yeah.
Chris Lindstrom's maybe the best guard in the
Zion Johnson's been pretty good as well.
Tucker has not been healthy, but when he's been healthy, he's been good.
And like Mekhi Becton was a guy we all liked. Didn't work out as a tackle, but
Bergeron's been good for the Falcons.
Cody Mauch is a pretty good guard.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you, Jeff. Like maybe it's a false premise, but bottom line, I think all of us probably would end up saying, here's the thing. Your highest probability to hit is with a player that you feel the strongest about. That's my opinion. I've looked back at all the trade backs that John Schneider has done. Those have almost invariably not worked out. Like they've not got the value for trading back. When they trade up, in most cases, it's worked out really well. And that's not to say that that's the only, that disproves all the economic data about draft picks and trading up and trading back. But I do think that the more you're confident in a pick, the more you feel like, this is the better guy, the better off you're going to be. The one example I can say where I know that wasn't the case is when the Seahawks, I'm almost positive, had Michael Kendricks ahead of Bobby Wagner on their draft board. And they traded back a couple picks to knowing that they could get one of them. And Michael Kendricks got selected, and they were then essentially forced to take Bobby Wagner.
It's the draft. The Rams had it last year with Verse.
They had we know that just drives me crazy, Jeff. All the people are like, oh, the Rams are like geniuses. There's video of their coach McVay saying, "We want Murphy.
He was furious. He could barely speak to the GM after."
And then they end up with Verse. So if they had been in the Seahawks pick, they would have taken Byron Murphy, who, by the way, I still think is going to be a great player. But anyway,
there's a lot of luck in this game.
There's a lot of luck. All right, let's do a couple more, and then I'll let you guys get on with your lives here. All right. Anders asked a lot of similar questions. I'm going to skip some of those for now. Sorry, Anders. This is a good one from Michael Mathis. And this is for both of you. Nathan, I'll start with you. Draft aside, if the season started today, how far are we from being true competitors?
Super Bowl competitors?
True competitors was his phrase. You can define that as you'd like.
I don't. I feel fairly pessimistic about this team right now. And not in a they're going to be trash kind of way, but just stuck in limbo forever kind of way. And Sam Darnold has not cured my limbo ailments. I think they're pretty far away. I think they still have to solve the offensive line. I don't think they have the right quarterback, or a quarterback that you can really just oh yeah, they're going to be contending going forward. Can he catch fire? Obviously, but can he do it again? I don't know. The defense took steps forward, but still had warts, and they're good, but are they an uber talented defense that's going to carry you to Super Bowl? No, I don't think so. So they just feel pretty mired in mediocrity. Mediocrity is too strong, but I just don't see them. I still think there are a couple off seasons from really putting together a true contender.
Jeff?
For me, very simple. They don't have enough blue chip players, and Brian asked the general manager of this team what you need to go from good to great. He said lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. So far, they've added only DeMarcus Lawrence. And so to answer his own question, and I thought it was a good answer at the time, everyone thought he was going to say offensive line. They have not addressed their offensive line at all, and they've not addressed their defensive line. I think they got to be great at one of those things. And I think their team just right now has a lot of good but not great. And their defense has the most, like, best part of their team. I think the head coach is really good for defensive, but they need to be great at something. And right now they're not great at anything.
I love the conversation in chat. People saying that I don't like enough prospects, which I love. I love that, like, everybody loves every prospect. I want to actually have real takes on here where there's people that I'm not a fan of and people that I'm a fan of, so that you guys can all just hammer me when it turns out that I'm wrong. Last question. This is for you guys as well. This is from Silk or Andrew. He says, asking Andrew, for everyone, do you have any draft day traditions, snacks, drinks, watching at home at a bar, to be more fun? And this is probably before we were doing our live stream. Did you guys have any draft day traditions?
In high school and like most of university, I watched with like the same 3 or 4 guys every year. We used to have like a game where we used to try to predict the pick during like the 10 minutes on the clock. We used to get like the same food every year, but it's kind of gone away. There's not many people I would watch the draft with. I'm too crazy about it. And I don't like people who aren't like sickos like we are. So there's very few people I know who could kind of keep up in this level. And it's
my wife, the thing she gets the least about me, and there's a lot of things that you should not get about me, I'm a weird guy, is like, why do you watch this? Like, she just does not understand. Like, for years and years, like, she'd make plans on draft day. Like, we'd be driving down to Olympia to see her mom or something. I'm like, is the draft? And she's like, they're just going to call out names. Like, why do you care? I'm weird.
I have a buddy that I would watch the draft with, and we would do like the whole draft. And obviously now I do the live pod, and so that's gotten disrupted a little bit. But like, it's one of my favorite things about the draft is day 3, and just like watching the NFL, like kind of going about my day and doing normal weekend stuff, but just having the draft tracker there and just kind of watching those names pop up. I don't know why I love that so much, but it's just this like, oh yeah, like what's going on with the draft? Like, I'm just hanging out with the draft on my phone. I don't know. It feels very cozy. And so that's, there's a lot of stuff I love about the draft, and hanging out with my friend is definitely one of them. But that part I always really enjoy for some reason.
That's
Day
funny.
3 is for sickos for sure.
That's funny. The first draft I ever watched, I think it was like 2002 or 2001. Like, the coverage cut off on Canadian TV after like halfway through the first round.
Really?
And I remember just sitting there. This is the first, I think, year I really got into the Seahawks and the NFL in general. And I was sitting there, like Nathan described, literally watching the draft tracker. And that day I fell in love with the draft. And like you said, Brian, my father is like a sports writer in Canada, like prominent sports writer. He makes fun of me to this day. He's like, and it's a sports writer. He's like, I don't understand. He's like, one time I drove from Toronto to Detroit, which is a 4-hour drive. And the first round was still on. It's like, I don't understand how you watch this. And I'm like, it's my favorite event of the year. When I tell people in like Toronto that, they think I'm insane.
Yeah.
And I still think it's my favorite sports day of the year. It's weird. It's kind of sad, but I think that's why we've all kind of connected here.
I think it's gonna be a little more special this year, Nathan. I'm curious if you feel this way. And Jeff, this is not meant to make you feel bad, because I know you would have liked to be at the combine, and you will be next year. But to have like seen those guys, talk to them in person, and then watch them work out in person, and then, you know, hear their names get called, I think that'll be a little bit different and cool this year for sure.
I agree. Like, I really wasn't expecting the personal aspect of it to be as cool as it was, but yeah, like I do just like some of these guys. I'm like, I just like them as people now, and it's like,
yeah,
it's really interesting to see some of them get drafted and be like, oh, that guy, oh, good for him. I'm happy for him, that kind of thing.
All right, we got a couple super chats. Colin Lundstrom says, time for periodic reminder that Nathan Ernst is freaking awesome and should be on the pod more. True. Is that, it looks like Colin could be you from another mother, maybe? Are we
We're
sure
not
that's not you?
related. I'm not paying
related.
family members
See
to
your stunt
connecting.
double? Yeah.
Chan Man says, any chance you entertain a TJ Watt trade or Jalen Ramsey or Tyreek Hill trade after the draft? Any of these guys appeal to you guys?
No. TJ Watt, yes. Tyreek Hill, absolutely not.
I don't trade for a veteran. Don't do it. You're not that team. All right.
Well, they kind of are that team, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're not built
Stop
to
being that team.
Stop being that team. Vince Ochoa says, love you all, but come on, it's DeMarcus Lawrence, not Dexter. He might get upset if you call him that in an interview. Did we say Dexter? We talked about
I think I've called him Dexter Lawrence like 20 times already. Like, I'm gonna make this mistake all season, and
forever.
I actually like the DeMarcus Lawrence signing a lot, but I keep calling him Dexter. It's too natural.
Yeah, I think I've made that mistake before as well. Actually, I know I have. Last one. This was from Will Fries, who's I love that he's got this username. It says, Brian, I love your content, but trashing DK Metcalf with clickbaity headlines is beneath you. You're better than that. Otherwise, keep up the great analysis and videos. Well, I'm not better than that. Like, I did it. So I'm clearly not better than that. Here's the thing. I'm not trashing DK Metcalf. I literally was trying to examine differences between this team and the last year's team. And I was looking at red zone efficiency, and I was like, DK Metcalf is bad here. And I thought he was bad, but I didn't realize he was literally the least efficient red zone receiver in the NFL over the last 5 years. That's noteworthy. And nobody else has talked about that. People have said he's not great, but the numbers are atrocious. And then while I was looking at that, I find out that Cooper Kupp is one of the best red zone receivers in the NFL over that period. And you find out that DK Metcalf is bad regardless of who his quarterback is, who the OC is. And you find out that Tyler Lockett and JSN with the same quarterbacks and same OCs were good in the red zone. I think that's a pretty noteworthy thing. And it's not even you can say it's clickbait, but it's also true. Clickbait is when you say something in the headline and then it doesn't really get paid off. DK Metcalf being the worst red zone receiver in the NFL is true, unless you can prove to me with data something else. He's at least the least efficient red zone receiver in the NFL. So I don't think I'm above that. I think that was awesome. I was super excited to find that information because I hadn't heard it anywhere else. I will continue to share that information if that's what I think is relevant to the Seahawks. And right now, the offense is the biggest question mark. And anywhere where there's a little hint of potential for a step forward, I'm going to shine a spotlight on that because I'm going to be curious about it. But I appreciate the thought, and I understand why you asked that question. All right. 2+ hours in. You guys are Saints. Thank you. Not the New Orleans Saints. No one wants to be that. But this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys. And I can't wait till next week, guys. We're a week away from a lot of time together. So I hope you're ready.
Can't wait.
Are you doing all 3 days?
I'm doing all 3 days. You guys don't have to. But typically what happens is most of you guys will hang out on day 1. Then you get oh my God, that was too much. And then day 2, you evacuate. Day 2 might be the best day this year. I mean, 4 picks on day 2 this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I think day 2 might be a better show. They're picking 4 times. And we're
going to be so furious that they haven't taken an offensive lineman where they don't take Donovan Jackson at 50. We're going to raid the VMAX.
Oh, it's when they come on at 18 and if Evan's on and they don't take O-line, it's going to be amazing.
I'm going to have to control my emotions when we interview the players 15 minutes after. If it's first round and they pick Matthew Golden or whatever, some player that I really don't want them to take. I would have literally just given the pick an F, and then I'm gonna have to come over and interview the kid.
So Matthew, tell me about your family.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll face that when we face it. But thanks for coming on, everybody. Make sure you give the show a like, click subscribe, and follow Jeff Simmons and Nathan Ernst. Until I see you tomorrow morning with Matthew from the reception perception. Lots of great stuff tomorrow. Take care. This is Brian Nemhauser and another episode of Real